looks like a breathtaking potential that everyone shares thinking our countries who you have made us to be. We have speak from the embarrassment in order to get there efficiently. This is again the way always present. So we will come really have to meet everyone we pray.
Okay, opening prayer ni Kagawad Sebastian Basterik Nagas sa State of the Local Governance Report ni Mayor ERNESTO MATUGAS. At itang magsugod man yung sunod, yan ang ating mayor dari sa may entrance sa City Cultural Center. Lupang hinirang sa ang lupang hinirang giarik karon sa mga ginagawa sa tanong Matugas.
I'd like to request Madam Secretary to make it up.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon.
If we have a quorum.
Good afternoon to the honorable members of this august body. Good afternoon, everyone. For our roll call, we have our City Vice Mayor, Presiding Officer, the Honorable Ernesto T. Matugas, our City Councilors, Honorable Casel R. Asarcon, Honorable Sebastian Rake Inagas, Honorable Danilo Seminor, Honorable Joshua Emilio Ishili, Honorable Noel Christian J. Catre Jr., Honorable Jose Expeditos Bibayana, Honorable Fernando T. Larong, absent, Honorable Yunelo E. Aldonsa, Honorable Joseph Joy S. Ufco, Honorable Mario I. Hista, Honorable Rico E. Nagas, and Honorable Mara I. Adtoon. Only one member of this council is absent, Mr. Chairman. There's quorum.
Since we have a quorum, we'll go now to proposal and approval of the journal of the proceedings of the regular session held on October 19, 2021.
Mr. Chairman, may I be recognized?
Honorable Esta.
Mr. Chairman, I move to dispense the reading of the journal proceedings of the regular session held on October 19, 2021. I so move, Mr. Chair.
Discussion, objection, hearing none, motion is approved.
Mr. Chairman, may I be recognized again?
Honorable Esta.
Mr. Chairman, may I move the approval of the journal proceedings of the regular session held on October 19, 2021. I so move, Mr. Chair.
Discussion, objection, hearing none, motion is approved. We'll follow the state of the local governance report.
Mr. Chairman, may I be recognized?
Honorable Asarcon, recognized.
Mr. Chairman, I move to rules to allow the city mayor to deliver his state of local governance report for the year 2020-2021. To move, Mr.
Discussion, objection, hearing none, motion is approved. Honorable Casel Asarcon, Honorable Sebastian Rick Nagas, Honorable Joshua Emilio Haley, Honorable Mara Alto, please escort the Honorable City Mayor into the session hall to deliver his State of the Local Governance Report.
Ladies and gentlemen, our City Mayor of Surigao City, the Honorable Ernesto Matugas Jr.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure and privilege and honor to welcome the Honorable City Mayor Ernesto Matugas Jr. and for him to deliver his 2021 State of the Local Governance Report.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Nitoy. Sa tanan, mayong hapon, please bear with me as I deliver my 3-hour long speech. Joke lang to. To our honored guest, our young and active Congressman, Honorable Jose F. Matugas, Governor of the Province of Surigao del Norte, Francisco T. Matugas, Honorable Eddie G. Gokyangki Jr., and all honorable members of the Sangguniang Panglalawigan, our City Vice Mayor, Honorable Ernesto T. Matugas, and all honorable members of the Sangguniang Panglungsod, municipal mayors, and their members of the Sangguniang Bayan, punong barangays of the 54 barangays of the city, heads and employees of the national government agencies, department heads of the city and the province, city and provincial employees, representatives of the civil society organizations and the private sectors, my family, friends, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I stand before you today for the first time to report on the accomplishments, plans, and programs and the general state of our local governance as of the past 2 years. We decided to cancel last year the traditional method of delivering our report to the people, for it was then that we started pursuing measures to contain the COVID-19 pandemic. This year, we are still scaling down from the usual gathering that we undertake during delivery of the State of Local Governance Report. But just like in the previous years, we always consider this report as a precious and time-honored tradition from one administration to another, a primary institutional mechanism of the sustained commitment of the City of Surigao to transparent and accountable governance. What I will be reporting to you today is the highlights of what we able to accomplish these past 2 years. Our accomplishments remained a product of teamwork and pooled effort in and among our own departments, our partners in the national line agencies, the business and private sector, civil society, and professional organizations, our counterparts in the barangays and the province, and all those who continuously pursue the development of our beloved city. Allow me to say again, I have said during my first 100 days report in 2019, that as your city mayor who is new to the job and the youngest one ever to take the helm of leading our beloved city, I took comfort and was greatly humbled by the support you have bestowed upon our ticket during the last election. We did a lot of firsts, but the decision to run in tandem with my father, who was ending his 3-year term as city mayor, is more of a strategic decision to achieve greater cooperation with the legislative department. Owing to experiences back then when I was a city councilor, where there were less meeting of minds in pushing for various initiatives that would achieve our shared vision and collective aspirations of our people. First of all, it is with great pride to report to you the apex of our efforts in furthering good governance initiatives. We received in 2019 our first ever award for the Seal of Local Good Governance from the DILG. This is, of course, a fitting testament to the performance of the past administration of my father, now the City Vice Mayor Ernesto T. Matugas. We passed the required performance level in the areas of financial administration, disaster preparedness, social protection, peace and order, business friendliness and competitiveness, environmental protection, tourism, culture and the arts. Such areas are considered to be the pillars of good local governance. Then this year again, the DILG once again extended the same level of eligibility for the City of Surigao as a passer of the Seal of Good Local Governance for year 2020. Congratulations to all of us. We owe this to our people to continuously do well and perform with greater commitment to service. For local legislation, among the key local legislation passed in 2019 are the following. 2 ordinances from the previous term relating to the proposed PPP on the city public market. We also have the ordinance upgrading the fees in our city auditorium and cultural center after repairs and improvements were made on the facilities. The ordinances creating into full departments the Office of the City Tourism and Human Resource Management and Development. We also have the ordinance authorizing the lease contract through PPP for the improvement of our city public market with Philippine Primark Properties Incorporated. Then the ordinance updating the fees and the lease policies of the land transport terminal and our commercial building 1 and 2. Last year, among the 14 legislation passed is the ordinance regulating the use of helmets for motorcycle riders. Then we have the one regulating the sale and distribution of marine products and the authority granted for the loan on the City Hall Annex building project. With COVID pandemic in our midst, our city councilors were not remiss in proactively providing the necessary policies to support our management and response, both on the social aspect as well as the economic component. Ordinances were passed for the creation of special account for the additional funds we receive from the national government. Ordinance penalizing discrimination for those who exposed to the virus or are health workers. Ordinance mandating compliance to the minimum health protocols against COVID. And the ordinance that would alleviate the plight of our local business community and those of our city housing program beneficiaries during the pandemic. Our timely response was also mainly due to the timely passage of supporting policies by the Sangguniang Panglungsod. They deserve a round of applause for their hard work. In terms of development planning, We continue to make improvements in our investment programming and budgeting process. We have also reorganized the City Development Council and other local special bodies for the current term. And despite the COVID pandemic, our members of the Development Council continue with their task of setting and reviewing our development policies, including the endorsement of our annual investment program every year. Workshops were conducted in 2019 for the orientation of our new sets of officials under the current term. As such, the status of our development plans and future thrust directions were discussed and spelled out, paving the way for the formulation of our executive legislative agenda for 2019 to 2022. We also sustained our efforts in revenue generation, with our total income in 2019 reaching almost 930 million pesos. It then increased by almost 14% in 2020, with the total breaching the billion mark at 1.06 billion pesos. This period's increase is higher than the 11% registered in the preceding period. Our economic enterprise, on the other hand, continued to perform as mandated, reaching a total income of 37 million pesos in 2019, and this reduced to 29 million pesos in 2020. The effect of the pandemic greatly affected the performance of our economic enterprises, especially the land transport terminal and city public market. Total income decreased by 23%. For human resource development and management, we sustained our adherence to the prescribed guidelines mandated of the Civil Service Commission. In line with our standardized recruitment and selection process, no less than 492 applicants were screened last year by the Personnel Selection Board, resulting to the issuance of 74 appointments for both promotions and new hiring. Despite the pandemic, regular employees' benefits and incentives were granted under our own program on awards and incentives for service excellence. This covers the granting of monetary benefits for loyalty and service awards, and the year-end cash incentive under the collective negotiations agreement, which was implemented on its second year already. But with greater benefits means a more stringent performance monitoring and rating procedure. Hence, we sustained the implementation of the outcome-based strategic performance management system mandated by the Civil Service Commission. Performance-based bonus in line with existing guidelines were granted to qualified employees. In 2019, we gained recognition as Maturity Level 2 in the implementation of the CSS program on Prime HRM. This program emphasizes on standardizing systems and greater employee participation, especially the recruitment, selection, and placement, learning and development, performance management, and rewards and recognition. In 2020, the city government of Surigao had a regional awardee for outstanding public officials and employees under Civil Service Commission Dangal ng Bayan Award category for the first time in the person of Miss Dina E. Diaz. This year, we also have another regional level Dangal ng Bayan awardee in the person of no less than our Human Development Officer, Miss Iris Cel Pedimonte. Can you stand up, Ma'am Hazel? Wala. For social development services, allow me first to present the area on education. In 2020, the city government allotted more than 33 million pesos for the Special Education Fund, including the unexpended balance of 13 million pesos in 2019. Among others, this was utilized for the payment of honorarium of school board teachers, non-teaching staff, and child development workers. Part of the SEF was also utilized for the procurement of supplies and equipment in line with the reproduction of self-learning modules for the learners in the division. The total SEF income in 2020 increased by 3%. As year-end benefits, additional honorarium of 11,000 pesos to all school board teachers and non-teaching staff was granted. Of the total allocation, about 22 million pesos was expended and 7.75 million pesos was the unexpended allotment, leaving a surplus balance of around 17 million pesos at the end of the year. We also provide the timely and critical support to DepEd in its implementation of the Basic Education Learning Continuity Plan under the new normal. Using our Special Education Fund, we procured 43 units of printer and ink supplies worth around 3 million pesos to facilitate the faster reproduction of learning modules. Currently, there are 520 beneficiaries of our City Scholarship Program. We ensure the program's sustainability to provide adequate support to deserving but less privileged students in our community with an annual budget of 6.5 million pesos, providing every qualified student with financial assistance of at least 10,000 pesos per year. Among the 66 graduates last year, our scholarship program produced another cum laude in the person of Mr. Ferry S. Haso. An additional 23 classrooms in 2019 and another 19 will be added to the current inventory of the City Schools Division in 4 elementary schools. Just recently, we turned over the 2-story 6-classroom building in Bonifacio Elementary School. This project worth 9 million pesos is funded under the Grant Assistance for Grassroots Human Security Projects of the Embassy of Japan and the City Government Counterpart Fund from the SEF. The operations of our Livelihood Training and Productivity Center remain in the forefront of our efforts in promoting technical vocational education. Our center continued with its regular program, offering and supplemented further with the scholarship provided by TESDA. In 2019, 797 trainees graduated from various programs and 527 of them successfully passed the TESDA certification.
Magandang hapon po sa lahat, lalo na po sa kay Honorable City Mayor ERNESTO MATUGAS Jr. Magandang hapon po, sir. Ako po si Gabriel Bagakay. Malaki po ang aking ipinagpapasalamat po na ako ay nakapag-aral sa LTPC bilang dressmaking dahil napakalaki po ng tulong nito sa aking buhay. Mula po nang makapag-aral po ako ay ito na ang nagiging hanap buhay ko po hanggang sa ngayon. At masasabi ko po talaga na sobrang salamat po na nagkaroon kayo o nagbigay po kayo ng chance na magkaroon ng kaalaman ang mga kagaya ko na walang permanenteng hanap buhay po. At sa ngayon po ay masasabi ko na talagang nagtagumpay po ako sa kaalamang nakuha ko po galing sa LTPC bilang isang dressmaking po. Thank you po.
Another 125 trainees graduated in 2020, with 60 more undergoing completion of their training program. We would like to thank TESDA for continuously supporting us and extending scholarship funds not only in our training center, but also to the various TVET providers in the city, amounting to 46.1 million pesos in total. On health services, our immunization coverage in 2019 improved by 88% of target. This, however, reduced due to the COVID pandemic to 76% in 2020. With the reemergence of the polio disease and massive campaign was launched under the program Sabayang Patak Kontra Polio, achieving a high of 96% accomplishment in 2019 and 99% in 2020. We owe this to the hard work and dedication of our health personnel and volunteers in the barangays who were instrumental in the sustained implementation of our regular health programs and services despite the pandemic. We were able to accomplish substantial progress in addressing malnutrition among our preschool children in our city. For the current year ending September 2021, we achieved a 4.7-point reduction in underweight cases, an 8.4-point reduction in stand growth, and another 2.9-point reduction in the wasted category. This reversed the trend of the previous year and even achieved a lower rate as far back as 5 years ago. The bulk of our health resources were mainly pulled into the COVID pandemic response, but the implementation of all the other regular health programs, although affected by community quarantine restriction, were still accomplished. In the front line of our efforts against COVID is the adoption of the prevention, detection, isolation, treatment, and reintegration strategies. As early as February 2020, we have already deployed personnel to man our borders and conducted the minimum health checks on incoming travelers. We were also prompt in implementing directives for the minimum health preventive protocols, the implementation of community quarantine measures, including granular lockdowns. We also established quarantine and isolation facilities, conducted the regular disinfection and decontamination activities, and provided the necessary logistics to our personnel. Under the detection strategy, we implemented proactive contact tracing to up to the 3rd level of exposure. This is greatly enhanced with the hiring of dedicated personnel or contact tracers by the DILG, which we were able to assign and coordinate down to the barangay levels. Monitoring of the suspected individuals and incoming travelers were also done, and I would like to commend the barangay officials and most especially our community volunteer health workers in making all this possible. Aside from the barangay level coordination, we also strengthened our surveillance and networking with our hospital facilities and the conduct of selective and prioritized RT-PCR testing. For isolation services, we currently have 3 operational facilities. The SSCT facility in Barangay Bonifacio is also certified to operate as temporary treatment and monitoring facility. Recently completed is also the 50-bed isolation facility in Barangay Cagniog, which is funded by DPWH with the city government providing the land as equity. Treatment and reintegration forms part of the final cornerstones of our COVID response and in coordination with our partners and the DOH, a one hospital command system was established. Clinical assessment was closely supervised prior to release and reintegration, and the continuous compliance to health protocols remained mandatory even to those recovered patients. I would like to take this opportunity to thank our doctors, all our health workers, our nurse, BHW, for their continued services. I would like also to thank Surigao Surigao del Norte Medical Society, led by Dr. Boyet Go, for their support in our vaccination program. We could not achieve all of this effort in fighting the pandemic without the support from all sectors of our community. We are truly grateful for all the donations, equipment, material, and logistics support to our hospital. Even individuals donated food directly to our frontliners and checkpoints personnel. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for your help and generosity. For social welfare services, due to the health crisis brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, the amount utilized for social welfare programs and services almost tripled, amounting to 453 million pesos. 84% or 382 million pesos was made possible through our tie-ups with the Department of Social Welfare and Development and various non-government organizations. The bulk of 46% was utilized for the conditional cash transfers, unconditional cash transfers, and the SAP emergency cash assistance under the Pantawid Pamilya Pilipino program. Another 42% was utilized for the emergency assistance program. This covers the distribution of the social amelioration program cash subsidy to 23,000 low-income families, the provision of the SAP livelihood grant to 242 families, and the distribution of almost 148,000 family food packs at the height of the implementation of the enhanced community quarantine. The rest covers the social pension of the elderly and the supplemental feeding program of their care pupils. Assistance were also given to those who were affected by the typhoon, floods, and fire. More than 3,000 preschool children enrolled in the 86 child development centers and 8 supervised neighborhood place facility. Due to the restriction imposed, the city government, through the City Social Welfare Office, adopted the modular approach to deliver lessons on value, cognitive and adaptive skill, and spiritual development to these preschool children aged 3 to 4 years old. The supplemental feeding program for preschool pupils was sustained by the DSWD Regional Office with a total funding of 5.5 million pesos. The SFP is the provision of food in addition to the regular meals for 120 days to preschool children enrolled in all child development centers in the city. We also sustained extending assistance services to children in conflict with the law. On its 9th year of implementation, the Pantawid Pamilya Pilipino program served a total of 7,711 households as of December 2020. Total amount disbursed amounted to 152.9 million pesos. In addition, the DSWD disbursed more than 28 million pesos under the unconditional cash transfer program, benefiting 7,800 households in the city and another 27.8 million pesos for SAP, covering 4Ps beneficiaries. One of the highlights of the year is the signing of the Memorandum of Agreement for the construction of the Silungan Surigao, a halfway home for victims of human trafficking. This facility was component of the partnership of the city government and the local council against trafficking and violence against women and their children, with Plan International and Balay Mindanao Foundation Incorporated. Total project cost was 5 million pesos, with the city government providing the land equity in Barangay Anomar and funds for the provision of equipment, amenities, fixtures, furnitures. The facility has been completed this year and turned over to the city last July 20. For peace and order, the comparative crime statistics showed that there was an increase of 207 incidents for 2020 compared with in 2019 with only 755 incidents. The increase of incidents, however, are not capital or index crimes, but mostly attributed to the intensified police operations related to the implementation of executive order issued by the local government unit against COVID-19 pandemic. Despite the limited manpower, well below the ideal and even the minimum population service ratio, still and all, our local police were able to improve on their crime solution and crime clearance efficiencies by about 12% and 9% respectively. The recalibrated war against illegal drugs resulted in the arrest of 62 persons and 91 cases were filed in court. Regular conduct of mobile checkpoints in various parts of the city and the other police operations resulted to the arrest of wanted persons, illegal gambling violators for robbery, theft, and motor napping. Our PNP personnel were also instrumental in our successful conduct of border checkpoints against COVID, the apprehension of quarantine and health protocol violators, and even in the information drive for our COVID response, anti-criminality, anti-terrorism, and others. The city government provided the PNP increased response capacity, especially in our 21 island barangays. The Surigao City Jail was awarded as the best jail of the year in the regional level by the BJMP. Jail Chief Inspector Roberto Gotico was also awarded as the best jail warden, and several others jail officers received a special award. Let's give them a hand of applause. Jail Warden Gotico, can you please stand up? Disaster risk reduction management is also among the main functions that we can say was in full throttle during the past years, especially in the actions of facilitating our pandemic response. In the beginning of the year before the pandemic set in, 8 barangay LGUs actively participated in the 5-day training on barangay resiliency on disaster. Earthquake simulation drills was also conducted in various government institutions and in Barangay Lipata. In 2020, the City Emergency Medical Services responded to a total of 5,673 calls and the critical task of emergency calls and the critical task of transporting COVID-positive patients. In 2019, our emergency response capabilities were given an added boost with the donation of the provincial government of a brand new ambulance. We also turned over a brand new 14,000-liter fire truck to the Bureau of Fire and Protection. Our firefighters continue to perform efficiently in containing local conflagration. On the other hand, we in the local government provided assistance and psychosocial services to the fire victims.
Pasalamat kaya ang tinatawag nila ngayon sa gamay. Dahil natulang ni tawag sa buha kay parang gabi nakatulog taon may walay ang buwan. Walay ang muslim. Nangayot ko diri, ariyan ko diri das maysi. Nangayot ko ako igat tawagan ako. Ako po pasalamat kaya ang pinagay sa ako. Pati ako ang mata ngayon ko. ERNESTO MATUGAS. Salamat kayo.
In support of the Balik Probinsya program, the city government assisted a total of 2,384 individuals, of which 1,850 were locally stranded individuals, 111 were COVID positive, and 534 were returning overseas Filipino. We did not limit our assistance to Surigao nones only during the COVID pandemic, but we also extended essential assistance to those coming from other provinces who were stranded here in our locality.
Tatanawin po namin yung hotel na po sa mayor po natin dito sa Surigao dahil ano po, talagang inaasikaso po nila yung mga bisita po nila tulad po namin, stranded po dito. Langyaw po kami, bisita po kami dito, pero nakita nyo po yung pag-ano po siya sa amin. Sobrang maganda po yung pamamahalan po ng mayor po dito.
Ako si Anselmo Trigo nga taga Kawayan, Libagon, Southern Liti. Ang ako yung kalipay karon ma'am, dagko nako kayong pasalamat sa government diri sa Surigao City nga ila gayud mi tabangan nga makauli gayud mi ingon ani di ay maayo mutabang ang Surigao nun sa mga nga nagbiyahe diri nga ingon ani nga sitwasyon nga na stranded na feel na mo nga unsa gayud ka paspas ang pagtabang sa Surigao nun sa amoa.
Let me now present the economic development initiatives that we have pursued in our city. For agricultural development, local appropriation to agriculture increased by 25% to 31.4 million pesos last year. Augmentation remains to be provided through our strong partnership with the Caraga Regional Office of the Department of Agriculture, Agricultural Training Institute, Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources, and from other national line agencies. With the assistance from the national government, we provided around 36 million pesos worth of various extension services like soft loans, financial assistance, seeds and other farm inputs, production facilities, pre- and post-harvest equipment and tools, education and training, livelihood support, crop insurance, and various fishery development services.
Ako si Bonifacio Picho. Anak ko ka istorya parte ning naabot sa mo ning warehouse. Dako kasi nini ang may tabang sa amo mga mag-uuma. Dili ra kon sa panalo magsasaka kung dili sa tanan mga mag-uuma din ni sa Barangay Mati. Daghang salamat Mayor Estong o Vice Mayor Nitoy.
Para ako si Manuel Panal, ang presidente sa mga stasyon, panalong magsasaka. O ganiya, na kadawat kami na aning kolektor para sa June. Dako ang pasalamat sa administrasyon ng mga Matugas na ubay-ubay ang mga grasya na nadawat sa mga mag-uma.
Kami katabangan na mga farmer para sa amo sa June na pagtrabaho sa amo panguma. Salamat o maradanot sa ito ato tanan.
We also sustain the implementation of various locally funded agricultural development programs. Among others, this consists of general extension services, material support, farm mechanization, post-harvest facilities, irrigation systems, farm-to-market roads, plant nurseries, product marketing, crop insurance, and organizational development.
Pasalamat ako ni Mayor Estong Matugas sa Vice sa iya mga kaiban nga konseyo. Daghang salamat. Salamat Mayor Estong Matugas.
Dako kayo kung pasalamaton sa ato mga city local government units, especially ang atong Department of Agriculture nga pinanguluhan karon sa atong halangdong mayor nga si Mayor Estong Matugas nga diin ana ang iyang dakong support sa kaparehas na mga farmers mo na nga ang kami as farmers na ang among motivation nga mo engage pa more o mo share pa sa market sa atong foods dinhi sa Surigao City. Okay.
For fisheries development, through our sustained representation, the BFAR provided us more than 300,000 pesos worth of production support to our fishing communities. This covers the provision of fingerlings, fishing gear, and other paraphernalia. Our partnership with the DIWA party list also resulted to the grant of 5 million pesos for the construction of additional stalls and site development works, complementing our existing community fish landing center. We made the necessary actions to be selected for the establishment of a multi-species marine hatchery project in Sitio-Look, Barangay Punta Bilar. This is a 30 million pesos worth project established under the RA 10825 passed during the 16th Congress and is sponsored no less by our then Congressman, now Governor Francisco T. Matugas. We have already acquired the site for 5.2 million pesos as our counterpart for this project, and its implementation will commence this year. For irrigation development, in support of our rice farmers, we spent more than 12 million pesos for the development of irrigation systems in different barangays. And through our partnership with the National Irrigation Administration, another 8 million pesos funding was provided. 10 irrigation system projects were implemented.
Ako si Barangay Captain Ernesto Senior, kapitan sa Barangay Mabini. Nagpasalamat kami og dako sa kang Mayor Estong Matugas sa gihatag na mga proyekto diri sa among barangay. Gipangandoy sa katawhan nga matabangan nga jud. Ini na ko man nahatag na nga jud ni Mayor Estong ang taghangyo sa katawhan para lamang katanom na nga jud sila.
For our livestock development, in the forefront of our efforts is the support extended for animals production, especially for carabao, cattle, and swine. Through our city vet office, more than 5,700 offspring were produced by artificial insemination and another 3,500 more by natural breeding. We have also last year dispersed 158 heads of various animals to 147 farmers, beneficiaries in 35 barangays. We have sustained the provision of essential services ranging from animal vaccination, deworming, treatment. We also provided diagnostic support and laboratory services. And we sustained the implementation of rabies vaccination for dogs and cats on a house-to-house basis. The biggest challenge last year until to date is in conducting border controls to control and avoid the entry of African swine disease, which is already reported to have infected swine stocks in nearby municipalities. To date, we remain in the green zone as African swine fever-free area. And I would like to commend the ongoing efforts of our city vet officer led by Dr. Alan F. Kines and all those who are instrumental in making this possible. Let's move on to tourism. Tourism is another area badly affected by the pandemic. After recovering from the earthquake in 2017, where tourist arrivals increased by more than 8%, arrivals in 2020 was badly affected by the pandemic, with a reduction of more than 83%, restriction in air travel and mass gathering, and lengthy community quarantine battered our tourism industry. This resulted to the suspension of operations and even the closure of our accommodation establishment. The number of rooms available reduced last year, but the number of beds, however, increased slightly as a coping mechanism for those granted provisional permits to operate or use as quarantine facility. But the occupancy rate suffered since the establishment issued provisional permits by the Department of Tourism are only allowed up to 50% occupancy. Tourism receipts reduced by 67% to only around 311 million pesos. We have to scale down our tourism events last year due to the pandemic and even canceled some major ones like the International Dragon Boat Festival. We have to modify and adapt to mass gathering restrictions. Hence, our banner event, the Bonok Bonok Marajao Karajao Festival, pushed through on the virtual platform. It was still successful with no less than 24 contingents from all over Mindanao participated. For our entrepreneurship, business, and industry promotion, the number of registered business establishments still managed to increase to 4,952 last year despite the pandemic. The reported gross sale of business establishments, on the other hand, reached around 11.3 billion pesos in 2019, and this increased to 13.5 billion pesos in 2020. This is the result of our efforts in striking a delicate balance between allowing livelihood and economic activities and at the same time responding to much needed quarantine restriction due to the pandemic. In terms of new business investments, from a high of 1.5 billion recorded in 2019, it reduced to around 382 million pesos last year. With new investments come more employment opportunities for the Surigaonons. Last year, our job creation through investments in business reached a total of almost 16,000 jobs. More than 2,500 jobs come from new business establishment. There were displacement of workers and worse, even unemployment due to the pandemic. But others figured out a way for other means of livelihood, like in the areas of online platforms, delivery services, and others. Our city, for the fourth consecutive year, is among the finalists for Level 3 cities in the annual search of most business-friendly LGUs, conducted by the Philippine Chambers of Commerce and Industry. Our environmental management efforts remain a product of concerted effort coming from different sectors supporting various interventions, which among others include forest and coastal resource management, pollution control, mineral resource management, and solid waste management. Last year, a total of 3,900 mangrove propagules were planted. Initial coordination activities with 50 barangays in implementing the forest land use plan were also undertaken, particularly the establishment of barangay forest parks. Our multi-sectoral efforts also conducted regular coastal cleanup activities. Other efforts to enhance the protection and management of our coastal areas include the approval of our first ever Coastal Protection Master Plan and the DENR initiated Provincial Foreshore Management and Development Plan. The annual inspection of motorized public utility tricycle pursuant to the City Ordinance Number 277 of 2008 were also pursued, covering no less than 2,523 units. For our waste management and pollution control services, the challenge remained for us to adequately address the increased waste generation and reduce volume, especially here in the urban and suburban areas. Last year, the waste collected and disposed in our sanitary landfill totaled more than 16,600 tons, and 2.25% of this is recyclable waste. In the forefront of our efforts to recover waste is the Upland Kuha Cellophane Papel program, which was launched in 2014. We have recovered about 17 tons of recyclable waste last year. This is a huge increase from the 4 tons recovered in 2019. This is the result of our sustained conduct of information and education campaigns by the city and to private establishments, schools, and our barangays. The Philippine Red Cross, through the partnership of Resiliency Project, added boost to our waste recovery efforts by funding the construction of a material recovery facility in Barangay Anomar. To further enhance the efficiency of our sanitary landfill operations, we were able to acquire last year 1 backhoe, 2 dump trucks, and 1 broken glass shredder machines. For infrastructure development, our spending increased by 65% to 276 million pesos. The number of projects implemented also increased to 82. On a year-on-year comparison by category, the spending increase in roads and bridges, government buildings, water supply and irrigation, and other facilities. Spending reduced in seawalls and school buildings. For 2020, the bulk of our infrastructure spending went to roads and bridges, followed by government buildings, public facilities.
behalf na nako council sa Barangay San Juan, in behalf ng mga barangayano sa Barangay San Juan, kinasingkasing gusto na mo pagpasalamat sa kan Mayor Istong Matugas, sa kan Vice nito'y Matugas, na na-continue ra gihapon ang mga projects na siyempre ang sa sanggunian sa nagilabi na sa naglihok ini ng mga proyekto.
Dako hinatabang para sa amo, dako na pasalamat ka doon sa behalf ng Barangay Top Council, mga katawan ng Barangay Top. Salamat ka doon, Mayor Isto, sa imo kayo.
Other highlights of our infrastructure development initiatives last year include the completion of the Battle of Surigao Strait Memorial and Museum, the Chess Center, and Reading Hub at the Luneta Park. Allow me to present to you the highlights of what we will be pursuing this year and in the years ahead. Our plans and priorities for 2022 and beyond. Construction, repair, and improvement of road and city streets as a primary infrastructure backbone that connects our rural communities to the city center and allow better mobility and the transport of goods. We shall continue with the prioritization of road construction, repair, and improvement. The redevelopment of our city public market with the memorandum of agreement lease contract already finalized, the construction of the temporary public market at the City Boulevard has already started to pave way for the demolition and construction of a new modern public market. This will not only be for the improvements of our market facilities, but also the creation of additional commercial spaces, investments, and job opportunities for our people. The improvement of the City Boulevard. The works for the improvement of the City Boulevard has already commenced with funding from the DBM under the Local Government Support Fund. This covers the almost completed work on the construction of additional open space dubbed as the Plaza Mayor. Improvement of Luneta Park. Another project that is ongoing and where we have secured external funding through the DBM is the improvement of our Luneta Park. The Phase 1 work covering the improvement of pavement, landscaping and shades, additional seating and overall modernization of the design has already commenced. provision of livelihood support to people's organization. We shall sustain the provision of livelihood support, skill training, and other forms of assistance to various associations, especially those organized under the 4Ps program and the Sustainable Livelihood Program. Poverty remains a major concern in our city, thus we shall continue to provide and support related interventions that would directly address this concern. The implementation of capital projects. The city will be contracting a loan for 500 million pesos to finance the implementation of various essential infrastructure both in the rural barangays and here in the city center, including the purchase of modern sea transport. The expected increase in our national tax allocation due to the Bandanas Garcia ruling will be used to pay off the amortization. This will cover the following: 350 million pesos to finance the one-time implementation of essential infrastructure identified by our 54 barangays. 40 million pesos for the development of the new public cemetery, which also includes, finally, a place for our Muslim brothers. 40 million pesos for the construction of road connecting the City Boulevard and the Magallanes Street to improve traffic circulation. Another 20 million pesos for the development of a lower deck berthing in the old Pasemco port to be used for the docking of our small inter-island vessels. 40 million pesos for the establishment of a digital traffic signalization equipment in critical city center intersections to improve traffic management. Then 10 million pesos for the purchase of a modern passenger seacraft for efficient mobility in bringing the services to our island barangays. Implementation of local government support fund support to barangay development program. As part of the ongoing peace and development efforts for the conflicted area affected barangays, we have started the implementation this year of 36 projects worth 220 million pesos in 11 barangays. This consists of farm-to-market roads, barangay health centers, street lighting, water system, and school buildings. Our COVID response and vaccination. As part of our efforts in containing the spread of COVID infections, we will continue to prioritize our ongoing vaccination efforts to achieve the target herd immunity. We made the necessary representations with the DOH to increase our allocations of the vaccines that we also purchased. And we also purchased an ultra-low temperature freezer to allow us to access and store more vaccine brands. Again, I would like to commend the efforts of our health personnel, and I would like to make special mentions of the help of our volunteers, private doctors, who are helping us in the vaccination rollout. I would also like to thank Congressman Francis Bingo Matugas and Governor Lalo Matugas for helping us acquire more vaccines from the DOH. The DOH has recognized our efforts in the vaccine rollout, especially for senior citizens and we will sustain our efforts and continue to bring vaccination closer to our rural mainland and island barangays. Ladies and gentlemen, these are just the highlights of what we will be pursuing in the succeeding years. We owe it to the Surigao Nons that we shall always push forward and achieve our shared vision for the development of our city. As always, it is only by working together, by pooling our efforts, by moving forward in the same direction that we will be able to achieve our dreams and aspirations as one community. We have already celebrated the golden year anniversary of our city charter with no fanfare due to the pandemic. We are now 51 years old and we have gone a long way. Through numerous challenges, various ups and downs, but one thing will surely be within us. We shall always move forward to achieve greater heights and new milestone. Padajon, Paglambo, Surigao. Thank you very much and a pleasant afternoon to all of us.
Mr. Chairman, please, may I be recognized?
Honorable Jake Diana is recognized.
May I move
Alright, Commandant State of the Local Governance Report ni Surigao City Mayor ERNESTO MATUGAS Jr. Today pamayag si Kawan Umara doon sa session.
Mr. Chairman, may I recognize?
Honorable Mara is recognized.
Chair? Mr. Chair, may I for adjournment? Mr. Chair.
Session now is adjourned. Closing prayer by Basti, Honorable Basti.
Let us put ourselves in the holy presence of God, in the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Almighty God, we started this event with you, and we are closing it with you. Thank you for making this a success. We would not have done it without you because many are our plans, but it is who established them. Thank you that your grace has covered us today. We cherish our oneness with you and with each other. We come from many different backgrounds and knowledge sets, yet we are one in purpose. As we end this event, keep us as the apple of your eye and the shadow of your wings. In Jesus' name we believe and pray. Amen. Your Father, Son.
Good afternoon. For the photo opportunity sequence, may I request the following. First, Mayor with the family. Forward.
Kini ang simbianan sa RPN, Radio Philippines Network, DXKS. DXKS 1080 ang inyong Radio Ronda 5,000 watts nagsimbiya sa ikatulong andana sa UFCO Lim Building, Borromeo Street, Dakbayan sa Surigao. RPN, Radio Philippines Network, DXKS 1080, ang inyong Radio Ronda.